Welcome to Dark Magic Stories, a supernatural anthology born from shadowed worlds and forgotten power. Tonight's tale: Pruett's Sinister Escapades. Paris, 1846. The streets are wet with secrets. In the shadowed corners of forgotten cathedrals and beneath the city's bones, something stirs: old blood, old magic, and a madness that refuses to die. This is the story of Pruett, a Deamhan haunted by voices, driven by obsession, and keeper of something far darker than a conscience. His companions are bones, his confidant, a severed head in glass. Something is coming for him, and still he hums. Episode 1. Paris in Shadows. 1846, Paris. The city, with its labyrinthine alleys and sprawling boulevards, thrived under a dual rhythm. By day it was a hub of enlightenment and industry. Scholars debating beneath the domes of the Sorbonne, artists sketching the bustling markets of Les Halles. By night, the city shifted into shadowed intrigue. Gas lamps flickered like ghosts along the Seine, their soft light unable to dispel the darkness crawling beneath bridges and behind shuttered windows. Yet their soft glow did little to banish the creeping dark that pooled behind shuttered windows. Footsteps quickened after dusk, doors locked earlier. There were places even the gendarmerie avoided. But deeper still, where mortal eyes dared not wander, an ancient conflict simmered. Paris was not merely the city of light, it was a sanctuary for the supernatural, where death held court under the very noses of humanity. The Dorvo vampires, proud and disciplined, had long claimed Paris as their domain, their strict governance keeping their kind in check. To the Dorvo, Paris was a treasure to be guarded, a jewel of secrecy. To them, Paris was not a city. It was a sacred geometry. Every cathedral bell, every cemetery, and shadowed alley served their order. The Dorvo had ruled in silence for centuries, and among them stood Monsieur Alphonse Beauregard, their king in all but name. Beauregard was no brute nor warrior, but a man of intellect, a keeper of forgotten knowledge, and too trustworthy for his own good. He lived between two masks. By day, behind windows covered from the sun's rays, he was a celebrated intellectual, an eccentric aristocrat who hosted salons in the Marais and lectured on spiritual alchemy to curious minds. Mortals flocked to him. He was safe, polished, academic. By night, the masks fell away. He descended into the earth, to his true sanctuary, hidden within the labyrinthine catacombs beneath Saint-Denis. It was here, among dusty tomes and arcane relics, that whispers of his brilliance spread like wildfire, artifacts that hummed with old power, bones with names. He was the last guardian of things too dangerous to destroy. And it was here that Pruett, the erratic Lamia Dema, set his sights. A creature of appetite and erratic brilliance, infamous among his own kind, unwelcome among others. Where the Dorvo cloaked themselves in elegance, Pruett wore madness like a perfume. He was charming when he wanted to be, scholarly when it suited him, and deadly always. He didn't follow rules, he didn't respect borders. And when he heard whispers of a Dorvo vampire hoarding a special kind of relic, his interest sharpened like a blade. But it wasn't curiosity that drove him. It was hunger, not for blood, but for permanence. Pruett did not crave power in the way most Deamhan did. He craved preservation, of beauty, of brilliance, of something that could not rot. And to him, Monsieur Beauregard represented exactly that. Among humans, the Dorvo was a celebrated intellectual, a man whose lectures on philosophy and alchemy drew the brightest minds of the city. To Pruett, he was an opportunity. Pruett, already infamous among Deamhan for his eccentricity and unpredictability, heard whispers of Beauregard's work, a Dorvo vampire who delved into ancient texts and artifacts that others feared to touch. On this night, his topic was the transmutation of spirit and flesh. The hall was packed, young philosophers in threadbare jackets, aging alchemists with smudged fingers, wide-eyed debutantes hoping for scandal. Beauregard stood at the head of the lecture hall, his tall frame draped in a charcoal frock coat that gleamed faintly under the chandelier's flickering light, his commanding presence filling the space with an effortless authority. The chandelier overhead cast flickering light across the room, creating a kaleidoscope of shifting shadows on the vaulted ceiling. The hall was nearly silent, save for the occasional murmur of awe from the audience. Though Paris was no stranger to gatherings of intellectuals, this was no ordinary lecture. Beauregard, under the guise of an eccentric professor, cultivated a reputation as a thinker on the fringe of science and metaphysics. Tonight, he spoke not of mundane philosophy, but of mysteries that teased at the borders of reality itself. The transmutation of spirit and flesh, his voice reverberating through the hall, is not a trifling matter of alchemy or chemistry. It is the interplay of will and essence, a dialogue between the finite and the infinite. The audience hung on his every word. He had their undivided attention. But one figure among them didn't seek answers. He watched instead. Measured, predatory. Pruett's hair was cropped close, his clothes unremarkable. His posture was relaxed, and his hazel eyes gleamed with a feral intensity that no human could replicate. As Beauregard expounded on ancient rituals, Pruett's lips curled into a faint smirk. He blended in so well he disappeared. That was intentional. He sat in the third row with a worn leather notebook resting in his lap, a notebook he'd taken from a man whose body now floated beneath the Seine. The ticket to the lecture had been on that same man's corpse, along with his blood. Pruett wasn't here for enlightenment. He was here for the speaker, and where the others saw wisdom, he saw something else entirely. Potential. Power. And perhaps, if he allowed himself the indulgence, beauty. Either way, the speaker was magnificent. While Beauregard spoke of arcane channels and spiritual harmonics, Pruett tapped his finger idly on the notebook's corner. He tilted his head, watching the Dorvo elder with the fascination of a naturalist watching a rare predator. Beauregard's gaze flicked to him briefly, but it was enough. The Dorvo vampire's expression didn't falter, but his words slowed. Pruett's presence caused a disruption in his cadence. He recovered instantly. When the lecture concluded, the audience erupted into murmured discussions. Some lingered, eager to approach Beauregard with questions, while others filtered out into the night. Beauregard, ever patient, remained at the front of the room, engaging humans with his characteristic charm. Pruett decided to wait until the last of the humans departed, leaving him alone with the Dorvo vampire. That's when he rose, and in slow footsteps he approached him. "I know you, Pruett, Lamia Deamhan." "And I know of you, monsieur," Pruett replied. "I've heard about your lectures. Such illuminating discourse, but you neglected to mention the role of intent in transmuting essence. Surely that was no oversight." Beauregard's expression remained guarded and curious. "You speak as one familiar with the subject." Pruett's smirk deepened. Familiarity is an understatement. Intent, after all, is everything. Without it, essence dissipates, does it not? "I see you have a mind of a speaker. It's rare for Deamhan." Pruett stepped closer, arms folded behind his back. And it's rare for a Dorvo vampire to lecture humans in such a manner, is it not? For a moment, they regarded each other in silence until Beauregard finally nodded, his tone neutral. Both are such oddities. Yet, you speak as one familiar with such matters. Pruett tilted his head, eyes gleaming. Familiarity is an understatement. Intent is everything. Without it, essence doesn't bind. It dissipates, flees. He smiled. Even a Dorvo should know that. They stood in a moment of quiet regard, each sizing the other. Not like enemies. Not yet. But like duelists circling the same map. Pruett stepped to the side, sweeping his arm as if presenting a stage. I would love to discuss your stance further. That is, if you're willing. Ah, Beauregard replied with a smile. My private study would provide a more suitable venue. Pruett gestured grandly. Lead the way, monsieur. After a few moments, Pruett followed the Dorvo vampire through the back of the hall. The chandelier flickered once more, casting long shadows behind them as the lecture hall faded from view. Some men seek wisdom, some seek power, and some seek possession. Beauregard did not yet know which one walked behind him. But he would, soon.